Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Jets, and I am still alive. Videos have been pretty scarce, huh? Yeah, I'm dying a little on the inside. There's been no sports for like 2 weeks. I miss the joy of cheering. So suffice it to say, I've begun to go stir crazy without sports, and one of the things that have made me lose my mind is the Super Bowl, right? Because one of the teams in it is the Cincinnati Bengals. And I want to say, I am very, very excited for the Super Bowl tomorrow because I love and adore both of these teams. I have loved Stafford and been a huge fan of Sean McVay for a long, long while, and so I'm very excited that they're in it. And the Bengals story is just fantastic, and Joe Burrow is an absolute meme king right now, so I can't be disappointed with the outcome. But the Bengals have really struck a nerve with me. Not from anything they did, more so what we did, and by we, I mean the Jets. So allow us all to go down a brief rabbit hole discussing how the Bengals got to the Super Bowl, and then I'm going to relate that back to the Jets. So, 2020, the Bengals draft Joe Burrow with the first overall pick, and he has a pretty okay first season for what he had around him until week 10, where his leg got absolutely destroyed because the Bengals offensive line couldn't stop a toddler. But luckily, the solution presents itself in the 2021 draft because the Bengals have the 5th overall pick, and you have a generational talent at tackle. Penny Sewell. It's a slam dunk for the Bengals. They took Jamar Chase. And the preseason happens, and I'm going to avoid the low-hanging fruit and say Jamar Chase couldn't catch a cold. He looked awful in preseason. He looked pretty bad in training camp as well. He had hands that were bricks, and not the good kind of hand bricks like Jerry Rice, but the bad kind of hand bricks like he couldn't catch anything. And now you're the Bengals, and you're kind of being the laughingstock of the league because instead of, protecting your quarterback who just tore his ACL last season, you give him a receiver who can't catch because, they were teammates in college. And then Jamar Chase said, all right, allow me to now have the greatest rookie season by a receiver in NFL history. I'd like to say that with Burrow throwing for over 4K yards and Jamar Chase having 1,500 yards receiving, I'd really like to say they were the best duo in the league. But, Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers would like to say something, and then from way, way, way above them, Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford are laughing at all of us. By the way, just in case you forgot, Cooper Kupp is having the greatest season by a receiver ever. But back to the Bengals. Their offense improves greatly. Offense in 2020, the ranks were 29th in points and 29th in yards. In 2021, they improved to 7th and 13th points in yards, respectively. A massive jump. They have a top 10 offense. And the defense gets a bit better. It's not dramatic, right? It's not crazy good, but it goes from 22nd in points to 17th and from 26th in yards to 18th. Enough that they were a mediocre defense. Trey Hendrickson specifically was, he carried that defense on his back, and they had the 12th best SRS in the league. So, neato spaghetti for them. An improved season, and they are rewarded with a 10-7 record. That 10-7 record is enough to win the division. Keep in mind, the 3 other teams in the division, the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers, all 3 of them in 2020 made the playoffs. Then here come the Bengals to dethrone all of them. They make the playoffs. First game, wildcard game against the Raiders. That was a pretty interesting game, right? First quarter, they led 13-3, and if you were the Bengals, you kind of feel like you got shortchanged because you really should have been up 21-3, given how terrible the Raiders' red zone defense was, and that you had 3 red zone trips, but that's beside the point. They still end up winning on a last-second interception by the defense. Neato spaghetti. But now you got to go to the Titans. They're the 1 seed. It's in Tennessee. They're going to crush you, and knock, knock, surprise, no, they don't. The Bengals, last-second field goal. Evan McPherson, who is, on a different planet in this postseason, nails it. Game winner. They head on to the AFC Championship round where they face the Chiefs, and you think the Cinderella story is over. And you really begin to think that in the second quarter when it is 21-3 Chiefs, again, in Kansas City. But here comes old Joe Shiesty, and a great comeback ensues. The Bengals, I know the story is the Bengals won in overtime, but in actuality, the Chiefs had to find a way to force overtime because the Bengals, with under 2 to play, had a lead of 24-21. They shut down the Chiefs' offense. The defense for the Bengals, regular season wasn't great, but postseason, they did more than enough to get by. They've been pretty solid, including forcing a couple of interceptions from Patrick Mahomes in the back half of that game against the Chiefs in the AFC title game. I say forced because, I don't particularly blame Mahomes for the overtime pick. That was more so a good play defensively by the Cincy, but that's beside the point. and the Bengals find a way. They're now in the Super Bowl. They are one game away from going from the 5th pick, last in their division, to Super Bowl champions. Like that. And now, kiddies, I get to tell you why I'm relating the Jets to the Bengals in the same breath, and not just because the Jets beat the Bengals, people don't forget, but because the Jets and Bengals started out in preseason with the same Super Bowl odds. 75-1 to make the Super Bowl, to win the AFC. 75-1. The Jets now have the 4th pick in the draft. The Bengals are one game away from hoisting the Lombardi for the first time in their franchise's history. Now, that's relevant. Also, by the way, over-under for wins, Bengals were 6.5, we were 6. So we were expected to finish pretty much dead even with the Bengals. The Bengals very didn't, and the Jets also very didn't, because we did not get to 6 wins. We had 4, but that actually is a relevant number, because the Bengals, in 2020, also had 4 wins, which is a neat little thing. But all of this is to say, right? All of this is to say, the Bengals are in the Super Bowl, and now, this doesn't even just apply for the Jets, I would say this applies for most teams. The rebuilding goalpost has moved, ladies and gentlemen. I never want to hear a team in the 3rd or 4th year of their rebuild ever again talk about how they're still rebuilding. No, that's not good enough. You can't be missing the playoffs in your 3rd or 4th year, and you certainly can't in your 2nd year of the rebuild not even be competitive. The Bengals, 2nd year of their rebuild, they're in a Super Bowl. Now, they are the exception, not the rule. And I'm not saying by any means that going into next season the Jets need to be thinking about a Super Bowl, because I mean I'm optimistic, but I'm not a complete idiot. But I don't want to, next season, the goalpost is moved, point blank. No more of this, improve, maybe get to 7 wins, Jets, maybe get to 7 or 8. No. You need to be thinking about playoffs. Point blank. I'm sorry, not sorry. The expectation should be 7th spot, that 3rd wild card. That's what the Jets need to be shooting for. That's what I think any team in the 2nd year of a rebuild should be shooting for now, is sneak into the playoffs. If the Bengals in the 2nd year can now make an improbable run to the Super Bowl, there's no reason that you shouldn't at least be competing for that spot. Like, here's the thing, right? Because I know the Jets. I know this team. I'm not happy that I know it as well as I do, but I do, right? I don't even know that you're going to make the playoffs next season. And, you don't even know. Because 9 wins, that might not make you a playoff spot. But my point being, right? If week 16, 17, or 18, if those roll around, when those roll around next year, I want to be thinking of playoff scenarios. I want to be thinking of who needs to lose, and we need to beat we need to beat X. But who do we need to lose to sneak in? And I swear, if it's Halloween next year, and we're once again eliminated, not mathematically, but, common sense-wise, if we're eliminated by Halloween, I'm going to lose my mind. And debatably, the Jets are even in a better position going into 2022 than the Bengals were going into 2021. We already, we have our coach like they did. They had Zach Taylor. We have Robert Saleh. They have their quarterback. We have our quarterback. They have their number 1 weapon in Jamar Chase. Couldn't think of it there. We have Elijah Moore and or Corey Davis. They have their number 1 running back in Joe Mixon. We have our guy in Michael Carter. Are they all the same? Maybe not. I'm not saying they are. But they have their guys. We have ours. And not only that, but we have the 4th pick and we have the 10th pick. So we can either trade those back and get more or just take the players there. And we don't have to use the 4th pick on a receiver. We can use it on anything, right? The Jets are theoretically in a better position than the Bengals. And we also have more money to spend than the Bengals did. So I don't want to be holding this team's hand while they underperform and limp their way to another 6 or 7 win season. I want to see them at least be slightly competitive, maybe not be depressed and already know you're out of the playoffs before you have Thanksgiving dinner. Like, God, can you imagine the novel concept of, like, the month of December and you're not already dead on the side of the road? Like, you're actually still thinking, like, we could still make the playoffs here, guys. Like, next season, I don't want to think about the draft. Like, at all. I don't want to be thinking about it at any point. I don't want to be thinking about, like, well, if we start losing now, we can be better. No. I've spent the past 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 6 years by, like, the 7th week being like, all right, well, where are the mock drafts? And the people that make the mock drafts are like, we haven't started on them yet. Why would you be thinking about that? And I'm like, because we suck. And that's the thing. I'm not saying the Jets need to be thinking Super Bowl, title game appearance, divisional round. Just maybe make a wild card or at least be in the hunt. Like, that little Chiron, in like late December, like mid-December to like, I guess now early January, because there's a few games in January now. A little Chiron that's like in the hunt and there are teams. I haven't seen us in that in over half a decade. It's been years since we've been in that Chiron. The last time we were in it was was week 16 and 17 of 2015, and we know how that season ended. I can't help but remember it, and I'll never forget it without therapy. And like, Jets, that's the great news for you. That's the wonderful news, right? Because your fan base is so mentally destroyed going into next season. If you went 9-8 with like a mediocre, like middle of the pack offense that was like 15th, and you limp into the playoffs at like 9-8 and get completely curb stomped in the first round, even if you have that happen, Jets fans and New Yorkers would celebrate like soldiers coming home from a foreign war. Like, if you just made the playoffs, right? Even if you got dropped, like, I'm talking 30-point loss, right? Completely killed. Jets fans would still be like, we made the playoffs! What happened in them? We made it! Austin, this really seems like a cheap excuse for you to just, kind of take pot shots at the Jets and get some anger out. Yeah, that's because it was. Yeah, this was all just kind of set off by a JPA football post on Instagram saying the Bengals and Jets had the same odds. That's what got the ball rolling and got me started to get angry with this. And also, it was just sort of an excuse to make something kind of relating to the Super Bowl, and also a Jets video, because I haven't made a Jets video in over a month. I feel lost without them. I feel lost without sports, really, in this 2-week gap between like the 1st and 15th. It's been hard. This is the second longest gap without sports that I've had on the channel. The longest was the end of football season to the start of hockey in 2021, like the start of that. So this has been a big gap. It's been very strange. Anyway, that's really all I got. I guess I'll say this going into tomorrow, which is actually today because I'm uploading this Sunday morning. I'm going to take the Bengals. I feel wild. I'm going to take the Bengals, and for MVP, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Trey Hendrickson. I am really going to shoot my shot. But I can't lose. I'm so excited for the game in general. Anyway, that is all I have. So if you enjoyed my insanity and ramblings, thank you. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you all so very much for watching. And as always, go Jets.